Hello professional, as you are aware that we are discussing the 12 principles given in the PMBOK version 7. Today specifically we are discussing the third principle, that is the stakeholder. So are you ready? Let's begin. So what do you mean by the stakeholder? Stakeholder, it's defined that any one or any person or a group of the person whose interests are impacted, that might be positively or negatively because of your project, that are in define of the stakeholder. Now here by this particular principle we might want to draw attention, the keyword is engage, that effectively engage with the stakeholder. Now stakeholder is not like someone who you can manipulate. You have to engage them in your project. Like in a chessboard, they are not a piece or a pawns that you can manipulate and that not give you a long-term benefit, right? So certain times you might manipulate to showcase them a rosy picture, but that is having a long-term consequences, that you lose that customer or a client. So you have to engage them effectively. That is the intention of this particular principle, that stakeholder effectively engage with the stakeholder. And how we can effectively engage the stakeholder? First of all, you need to understand who are your stakeholder. I just wanted to elaborate, like I want to give an example that these are the two competitors. So let's consider the PepsiCo want to launch a new soft drink in the next financial year. So who are the stakeholder for this entire ecosystem of their client, their investors, the workers and all that? But one more stakeholder, that is the Coca-Cola. They have to keep or maintain the secrecy of that particular project, that should not be aware that or there is a risk if that secrecy leak, that Coca-Cola might be come up with different certain products that might impact the entire things. So that is the holistic understanding. So this picture give you a very high level understanding that who are the stakeholders. They might be internal, externals. So consider it is not like the team working in that particular project in that office is your only stakeholder. Certain stakeholder might be sit in a different corner of the planet, but still they impact or they influence your work by sitting over there. So you have to closely monitor them. Then you can able to devise a strategy to engage them, and then you can work in a proper direction. So how we can understand the stakeholder? First of, you need to analyze them. So if you check over here on the x-axis, there are interest grid, that what are the stakeholder, what's their interest in our project. On the y-axis there is a power grid, what's their influence or power on the project. So certain stakeholder on this quadrant, they called key players, who have high power and high interest. So you have to engage and manage actively those stakeholders, because at any given point of the time they will change or impact, or their interest, if you are not keep maintain, the project outcome would be, or certain key stakeholders like your client, your suppliers. So suppose your suppliers stop providing you the raw material and your deadlines might be changed. So you have to manage or engage with those stakeholders effectively. And certain are direct or indirect stakeholders are also there, like apart from your project. In the COVID pandemic, we had observed that government play an indirect. So they come up with laws and regulations like quarantine and other things, by which they indirectly influence your project. So that is an indirect stakeholder. And it is may possible the type of the stakeholder may change from time to time. Right now in the beginning they are positive, at the end they might be negative. So these all things you need to take care. The second quadrant, what we are discussing about, the context setter, or we can say that who has a high power but they have a low interest in your project, that we call, you need to satisfy them their needs and certain a crowd, like they have low power and low interest in your project, so just keep on monitoring them. These are the stakeholder. And the last quadrant, that having a high interest but a low power, they are defender, they are supporting your project, so you have to keep them informed about the project progress and all that thing. So these are the power interest grid analysis, by which you can do analysis of the stakeholder, and accordingly you can define the strategy to engage the different stakeholders. Now there is a stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, what I had listed over here. So these are the different level of engagement. They are unaware about your project, certain are resistant about your project, certain are neutral about your project, certain are supportive to your project, and certain are champion or leaders leading your project. So as you see, the stakeholder 1, their C stand for the current engagement level and D stand for desired engagement level. So stakeholder 1 has a unaware engagement level and you want him to support your project, that is a desire. So how you map this gap, that is the reason you have to develop and define a strategy for that. Stakeholder 2 is a neutral current stage, but you want to shift him to the desired, and the stakeholder 3, whose current and the desired engagement level is the same. So you just need to keep maintain the strategy. So this is how we have to define the strategies to manage the different stakeholders. Ultimately, by this particular principle is indicating how we engage the stakeholder throughout the project life cycle, not just the beginning, but throughout and the stakeholder also change. Certain stakeholders are there in initiation of the projects, they might be changed, certain other stakeholder may be added. So you have to keep on tracking and monitoring them throughout the project life cycle. Otherwise, what happens that you're not aware what's going on in their mind, you become a blindfolded and it may disturb your entire project's goals. So that you have to be very mindful about the stakeholder. You have to do the stakeholder analysis periodically to understand what's going on in the minds of the stakeholder and what they want to achieve, so that you can effectively engage them in your project and you deliver a wonderful result for them. So I hope you understand this particular principle, stakeholder engagement, and stay tuned for the next principles. Thank you very much.